Hi, this is Alessio. Hope you're well. Just a very quick update for you on the Bitcoin situation. So, as you probably remember, I made a video recently, just a few days ago, about the fact when Bitcoin was dropping here. So, as Bitcoin was dropping in this quite a severe decline here, then it managed to hold above 65K, so it stayed above 65K, as you can see here, and managed to see a nice bounce on this green bar. But is the bounce convincing? Did it manage to break resistance? Or are there potential dangers here? And what is this chart development saying to us at the moment? So we'll have a look at this chart here and also the hourly chart and explain what is likely going on here on the chart of Bitcoin. All right, guys, join me. All right, guys, welcome back. So as you probably remember, just a few days ago, Bitcoin was in a decline. So there it is. By the way, I noticed I mentioned also in my previous video that Bitcoin at the moment still had not managed to break through this downtrend line you can see here. So it tried several times to break through this trend line, did not, failed on this occasion, and it failed again. So typically this kind of false breaks are not positive signs for price action. Now let's go to the chart here, zoom in here a little bit. Now in my previous video I explained that there are two potential wave counts, two potential structures we could be dealing with here on the chart of Bitcoin. The first was the yellow wave count that you probably remember, the ABC count. And that was simply saying that this structure here, this likely structure that's forming here, could potentially be an ABC wave count. In other words, this could be the A wave down, B wave, and a potential C wave as part of a flat ABC structure. However, you may remember I said in that video that if that's correct, Bitcoin has to stay above 65K, very important support, and it must break at the very minimum. It must break above 70K and also importantly above resistance near the June highs near 72K, none of which Bitcoin has done. So you can see I'm actually not very pleased with this bounce. As a matter of fact, it was okay. It was a nice bounce we had here on this green bar, but it failed to get above 70K. It did not break 70K resistance. Okay, this grayish line you're seeing here, 70,187. And also it failed to get above the 72K, this resistance region here. In fact, the prior highs that we made here in May and June. It did not break through that level either. And why is that important? Because we need confirmation. So as you know, whenever we're doing analysis, it's not just as simple as saying, yeah, there you go, this is an ABC wave count. No, you need also confirmation by a break of resistance. And we did not get a break of resistance, for example, at 72 to 70K. So this region of resistance at near 72 to 70K has still not been broken, despite the fact we had a nice bounce on this green bar rally there, okay? But on the plus side, we did not break 65K either at the moment as I'm making this video. So that's why I showed you another wave count too, the red wave count, the more bearish one, as you probably remember, which mentioned that this could be a waves 1, 2, 3 to the downside. In other words, if that's the case, if that's a waves 1, 2, 3 to the downside, waves 1, 2, and 3, the third wave would take us significantly lower. And by the way, as I mentioned in my previous video, this also would require confirmation by a break of support near 65K. However, support has now moved up. Support is no longer just at 65K, but it's actually at this red line here at 66K. So this is the new support level that Bitcoin has to protect. The lows it made just recently, as you can see, they're near 66K. Okay, so that's the new support level that Bitcoin must protect to avoid a big drop down. Because if Bitcoin were to drop below 66 to 65K, that would actually increase the likelihood of the red wave count to significantly lower levels, at the very minimum to test the lows it made in May. So let's see if Bitcoin can stay above 66 to 65K support, or at the very minimum 66K. But here's something else that's actually worrying and concerning on Bitcoin. If we go on the lower time frame chart, this is the hourly chart of Bitcoin, there is something concerning here, and that is this. You may recall I mentioned just a few minutes ago that a particular bounce we saw on Bitcoin this week on Wednesday was not very convincing. And you can see why. You can see that the bounce we had was actually composed, I'll do this in a different color. So you can see the bounce was actually composed of three waves. We had three waves up. And as you know, three waves are corrective in nature, not impulsive. Okay? So three waves are not convincing. Because, again, corrections and corrective patterns are typically composed of three waves, not five waves. So what I needed to see was a five-wave structure, but instead, as you can see here, we got a three-wave structure. And, even worse, the drop that we had after that bounce has now overlapped with the prior wave here. Okay, so as you know, waves 4 and 2 cannot overlap except some structures like diagonals, but as you know, diagonals are not very reliable. So as you can see, this most recent drop that occurred, especially today, is now overlapping, with this prior move, and even worse, this drop is impulsive. Okay, so if you actually have a look, you see this most recent drop is composed of 5 waves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's an impulsive decline, a 5-wave decline. That's not a good sign either, because as you know, 5-wave declines, impulsive declines, are signs of potential trend continuation. In other words, potentially a trend continuation to the downside. But the point is, it's too soon to call. Okay, so at the moment, Bitcoin is stuck in a no man's land. As you can see here, we're stuck above support near 66 to 65K. Okay, and we're below resistance near 70 to 72K, or so 70K approximately here. Okay, so Bitcoin is stuck in this kind of no man's land. We need to see which path Bitcoin is going to choose. Okay, if Bitcoin can get something going above this resistance, that would be a good sign, a positive sign for a move to higher levels. For example, slightly higher levels, like for example 75K to 77K. But if it chooses this path, if it takes the red pill, okay, so either the blue pill or the red pill. If it takes the red pill, if it drops below 66K, then it's potentially going to go significantly lower, potentially towards the May lows. Okay, so that really is it, as simple as that. So let's go back to the chart that I had a few minutes ago. So the big question at the moment is, we need to see what Bitcoin is going to do. As I mentioned, the bounce that we had just recently, okay, yesterday, it was nice. We had a strong bounce, but as I just explained to you, it was not very convincing. It was a corrective 3-wave rally. So that's not a good sign. And the decline we had from that level, the decline was impulsive, composed of 5 waves. That is also not a positive sign. That does not favor the bulls at all. So just to keep it simple, at the moment, I'm keeping the picture more or less 50-50. I know in my previous video I said that the yellow wave count had a slightly higher probability, but because the bounce that we had recently, this green bar bounce that we had, because that bounce was not very convincing, it was not impulsive, it was corrective, then unfortunately I have to update my expectations. So quite simply, and I know some of you hate this, but the fact is that the odds at the moment are more or less 50-50. So it's simple as that. Is Bitcoin going to choose the blue pill, the blue resistance, or is it going to take the red pill at this region, 66 to 65K? If bulls want to convince us, if Bitcoin wants to convince us that it wants to get something going towards higher levels, like for example 75 to 77K, then it's quite simple. It has to break through this resistance here. Okay, if Bitcoin can get through this resistance near 70,200 or 70K approximately, then that would be a good sign, a positive sign for a move higher to slightly higher levels, just near 75, 77K region there. However, on the other hand, if Bitcoin were to break down below this new support level here, the low that it made just recently, that low that it made near 66K, so a breakdown below 66K to 65K would open the door to more downside, significant downside risk. Below 66K to 65K, that would mean a significant decline to retest the lows that it made near May, and potentially even lower levels as well. And by the way, in the members video this Sunday, I'll go into the targets, the potential targets on Bitcoin in much more detail with Elliott wave count. So make sure you watch the members video this Sunday, as we'll cover that in much more detail. That's really what I have here, guys. Quite simple as that. And I know some of you don't like when I say the odds are 50-50 and things like that. But the truth is, guys, I'm dealing with the charts as I have it. If I had a high probability wave count, if I had a high probability structure, I would tell you. But I don't have one. By the way, some of you asked me, hey, Alessio, what if the stock market goes through some kind of a major correction in the next several weeks, which I think is quite likely. And I'm going to cover that in a separate video as well. Well, yeah, if indeed the stock market goes through some kind of a major correction, which I think is quite likely in the next several weeks, that could put downward pressure on Bitcoin as well, because the correlation, the positive correlation between the two. So again, we'll cover that in another video. All right, guys, that's really what I have. Make sure, again, join me in the members video this Sunday for more detailed analysis. Thanks very much indeed. I look forward to seeing the next video update. Cheers. Bye for now.